"You don't deserve this success," my father, Robert, said during my graduation dinner. "Then let Joshua pay your bills," I replied, raising my glass with a quiet grin, steady and sure. It was the kind of expression you give when someone finally reveals they were never truly in your corner. After I lifted my glass, a stillness settled over the room. It might have lasted 5 seconds, maybe more, but it felt like time froze just long enough for me to watch their reactions shift in real time. Laughter stopped abruptly. The soft clink of utensils ceased. Robert, still clutching a half-empty beer bottle, blinked slowly, as if unsure of what he'd heard. But I was certain of my words. For once, I spoke without hesitation, and I meant every syllable. The event was meant to celebrate something monumental, my college graduation from Oak Haven, one of the best public universities in the state. I had clawed my way through it almost entirely alone. Tuition was covered by scholarships, part-time tutoring sessions that stretched past midnight, and early morning shifts at the campus cafe. It was grueling, but I made it. Not a single family member had helped. Still, I invited them all, spending nearly every penny I had left to reserve a restaurant patio, fill it with food, hang decorations, buy drinks, and hire a guitarist whose voice carried raw emotion. I wanted the night to feel significant, like the start of a new chapter. And it was, just not in the way I'd imagined. Everyone showed up: my mother, Susan, quiet but present as always, my aunt and uncle, Linda and Richard, hovering between supporters and spectators, my young cousins, chasing balloon strings tied to their wrists. And Robert, arriving an hour late, already tipsy, in a crumpled fishing shirt with his familiar smug look. Joshua, my brother, didn't come, he rarely did. Yet he still loomed large, present in every story Robert told, especially the one that turned the night upside down. "You don't deserve the success," Robert said, standing as if to give a toast. Joshua did. He didn't slur, he wasn't joking. He meant it, and those words hit like bricks, carrying the weight of every year before that night. In that moment, I realized something I should have known long ago. I'd spent my life waiting for Robert to say he was proud of me. He never would. So, I raised my glass, pretending it was still a celebration, and said, "Great. Then he can start covering your bills, too." I didn't need to shout, everyone heard. A few even offered small smiles, not out of humor, but because they recognized the truth in it. I set my glass down, gave Robert one last look, and walked out. No explanations, no hugs, no looking back. I didn't go home afterward. I couldn't sit in my empty apartment replaying that scene. Instead, I drove, no destination in mind, just streets and silence under the glow of streetlights. By midnight, I was parked at Lookout Point, the old teenage hideout where the world felt small and breath came easier. I turned off the car, left the windows open, and let the cold air keep me grounded. Robert's words echoed, "You don't deserve this success." Joshua did. Success, the degree I earned after 5 brutal years, the job I landed after countless rejections and grueling interviews, the debt I avoided by skipping nights out and living on discount noodles. What had Joshua done to be more deserving? That question had haunted me for years. Joshua was always forgiven first, given endless chances, praised just for showing up. He dropped out of community college after 1 semester, yet Robert called him the smart one. At 16, I worked to buy my own school clothes. Joshua nearly got fired from GameStop 3 times and was still told he worked hard. I never had proof of the disparity until my 3rd year of college. Visiting home one weekend, I saw a tuition statement on the kitchen counter, Joshua's, marked fully paid. That was the first time I had confirmation, not just a gut feeling, that the unfairness was real. I stayed silent, convincing myself their finances were tight, that they were doing their best, that they assumed I didn't need help. But hours before standing on that patio, hearing Robert praise the son who didn't even show up while dismissing my achievements, shattered those excuses. That's when I began unraveling the past, digging up old documents, replaying buried memories, and noticing the pattern, who they protected and who they left to fend for themselves. It was never about money or achievements, it was about belief. The painful truth was that my parents, especially Robert, never believed in me. At Lookout Point, staring over the quiet city, I whispered, "It ends now." I wasn't talking about the argument, I meant the fake smiles, the internal begging, the endless effort to prove my worth. I was done reaching for people who never reached back. Growing up invisible made me skilled at fading without a scene, even while carrying everyone else's burdens. But that night, something shifted. I didn't want to stay in the background anymore. I didn't just want to leave the dinner or escape Robert's voice, I wanted distance from the entire dynamic, from the family I'd spent years trying to please. I'd always believed that if I worked hard enough, got the grades, landed the job, they'd finally see me. But that moment never came. They weren't evil or overtly cruel, that would have made leaving easier. It was subtle, I only mattered when they needed something. Robert needed help with taxes? I was the dependable one. Susan's laptop broke? I was the call. Joshua crashed his car again? I was expected to drive him to interviews he'd skip. They didn't resent me, resentment requires attention. They just didn't care. That realization lingered for days after the dinner. I didn't answer calls or reply to voicemails. Linda messaged me on Facebook, saying Robert wasn't himself that night and didn't mean it. Susan left a voicemail begging me not to let one moment ruin everything. But it wasn't one moment, it was all of them. The subtle digs, the praise for Joshua's failures while my struggles were met with calls to be more mature. Like when I tried discussing my future with Robert, and he called me too much, then bragged about Joshua's garage band that never played a single gig. Or when I broke my arm in high school and got blamed for missing sports practice, while Joshua flunked every class and was rewarded with a Florida trip to rest. Or when I opened my college acceptance letter, and Robert said, "Don't count on us to pay for anything." I wasn't counting on it, I never had. Still, I gave everything, my time, money, emotional energy, silence. But at some point, I had nothing left to give. There was no dramatic finale, no shouting, no meltdown, just a quiet stop. I stopped reaching out, replying, hoping they'd change. They wanted me to be the quiet helper, the dependable sibling, clapping from the sidelines while others took the spotlight. I'd played that role so well, I almost forgot I could leave the stage. The decision came on an ordinary Tuesday, 2 days after the dinner. I rolled out of bed, brewed coffee, and sat at my small kitchen table, staring at a photo from the graduation dinner, the only one I'd asked the waiter to take. In the background, others laughed, plates full, a balloon frozen in motion. But I wasn't looking at them, I was looking at myself. I didn't look proud or relieved, I looked drained, like someone who'd carried a load so long they forgot they could set it down. That's when I picked up my phone, not to call or text, but to block. First Robert, then Susan, then Joshua, then the group chat that only remembered me when someone needed a favor. One by one, I shut them out, no vague posts, no goodbye speech, just silence. Then I started boxing things up. My apartment had been a holding space, close enough to be there for them, far enough to feel like I had boundaries. But it never felt like mine. I sold most of my things on Facebook Marketplace, used the money to clear my remaining student loans, and handed the lease to a coworker who needed a place. Within 2 weeks, I was gone, new apartment, new city, new phone number, no goodbyes. The only personal item I took, besides essentials, was my diploma. I had it framed and hung above my desk, not to impress anyone, but to remind myself I did it alone, that it mattered. Even if Robert stood before everyone and said it didn't, I was still here, still standing. For the first time, I stood because I chose to, not because I had no choice. Life used to feel noisy with their opinions, judgments, and backhanded remarks. The constant wondering, should I text them? Maybe if I explain it differently, they'll get it. When that noise vanished, I expected to feel isolated, but I felt light. That first night in my new apartment, I sat on the floor, no couch, no bed frame, just a mattress and a box of food. The quiet wasn't anxious, it was calm, like air returning to my lungs. I didn't check my phone, didn't scroll, didn't wonder who noticed. I knew what I'd see, missed calls, guilt-laden texts, after all we've done for you, messages meant to pull me back. I didn't block them to hurt them, I just owed no more explanations to people who'd already decided who I was. In that stillness, I remembered who I used to be. I loved cooking before family meals became a stage for judgment. On the second night, I made roasted vegetables, garlic bread, and pasta, simple, but mine, eaten at a table I built myself. I found old sketchbooks labeled miscellaneous while unpacking, untouched for years. I spent evenings drawing again, free from scrutiny or pressure. I remembered I liked being alone, that I didn't need to prove my worth to matter. New people entered my life slowly. Thomas, a neighbor, invited me to his game nights. Laura, someone I met at a bookstore, sparked a conversation over coffee that became a friendship. My coworkers started seeing me as more than the together person, genuinely curious about my life, not trying to reshape it. None knew the years I spent chasing affection like a prize. They just liked me, and that was unfamiliar but real. I didn't need to recount my past to validate my progress, I had nothing left to justify. All I had was stillness and a life that finally felt mine. 3 months after the dinner, I came home from work, jacket half on, bags over my shoulder, when 3 sharp knocks hit my door. Not a neighbor, not a delivery. I froze, then opened it to find Susan. She looked smaller, not in height but in presence, trying to seem confident but faltering. I was nearby, she said, as if that explained her presence. Figured I'd drop in. I stayed silent, holding the door, not wide open, not fully shut, letting her decide what to say. Her eyes scanned my apartment, surprised I'd built a life without them. "Your father's been asking about you," she added. "He's not feeling great. He misses you." There it was, the gentle nudge of guilt. But I didn't respond like I used to. "He had his chance to say that at the dinner," I said calmly, then closed the door without anger, just certainty. A week later, a voicemail came from an unrecognized number at 2:43 a.m. I hesitated but played it. It was Robert, his tone slow, deliberate, not slurring but oddly controlled. "What's your deal?" he began, no greeting. "You've always acted like you're above us, like the world owes you something just for existing. You finished your degree. Good for you. But don't pretend you did it alone. You come from us, and you'll come back to where you came from." The line cut off, no apology, no accountability, just another attempt to frame my growth as betrayal. But his words didn't land. They confirmed what I already knew: I didn't belong to their narrative anymore. I felt no rage, no tears, just peace. I sat in my apartment, looking at the city lights, and realized I was done. Not broken, not crushed, just finished. His voice, once all-consuming, was now nothing, like a stranger's. That was the last time I heard him speak. I didn't block the number or respond. I left it untouched, like the questions I no longer asked myself. Choosing not to react brought more peace than arguing ever could. Life wasn't perfect after that, but it was real. I found steady work that felt right, nothing glamorous, just mine. I started freelancing in design, rediscovering my creativity. My apartment became a home, bookshelves filled with well-read pages, a mismatched dining set that somehow worked, a framed photo of me in my cap and gown, smiling because I was proud of myself. Friendships grew without favors or guilt. Thomas became a true friend. One night, over beers, I shared my story. He didn't act surprised or make it awkward, just passed me another drink and said, "Some families lift you up, some tear you apart. Sounds like yours did both." Laura and I grew closer, our connection slow, steady, and real, no games, just two people who'd been hurt but were willing to try again. I didn't rebuild my life to prove anything. I did it because I finally believed I deserved a good life, not for my achievements or suffering, but because everyone should feel seen and loved without earning it. One afternoon, while hanging a picture above my couch, my phone lit up, 37 missed calls from numbers I once knew by heart, from people who only remembered me when they needed something. I looked at the screen, muted it, and returned to the frame. It was a quiet Sunday, the sun softening the world. I walked home from the coffee shop with a warm sourdough loaf and 2 iced drinks, one for me, one for Laura. She was at my apartment, flipping through our growing record collection. I wasn't thinking about my family until I turned the corner and saw Susan's car, parked, motionless, like it wasn't sure what to do next. I stopped, heart steady, mind calm. Susan stood by my building's door, looking up at the windows, unsure which was mine. She held something, a note, maybe a letter, perhaps saying, "We miss you," or "Your dad didn't mean it." But I didn't need to read it, I knew that story. I didn't call out or approach. I walked by, slow and calm. Our eyes met briefly. She opened her mouth, but I gave her nothing, no wave, no smile, just silence. Not to hurt her, but to protect my peace. I'd already forgiven her, quietly, without a speech. But forgiveness doesn't mean letting someone back in, especially when they never learned to knock. Upstairs, Laura was barefoot, hair tied up, playing an old record, a scene from a peaceful movie. She smiled as I handed her the drink and kissed her cheek. Nothing had happened, because to me, nothing had. The past stayed on the sidewalk, but I was already home. My diploma hangs above my desk, simple black frame, no fanfare, just quiet proof of what I built alone. In the evenings, I sit beneath it with coffee, the window open, soft music playing. That's my favorite time, the quiet, the peace, the reminder of who I've become. My phone holds missed calls, some from Susan, some from distant relatives, a few from unknown numbers I could guess. I don't block them anymore, but I don't answer. What would I say? That I'm okay, happy, that I found love, real friends, and peace, not because of them, but despite them? I don't owe them that story. I lived it. That's enough.